Welcome everybody. Hello and welcome to Lightroom and Photoshop, when to use which. I did this session yesterday for the first time, so it was like, gave me a lot of feedback from the audience just from where they stood, and so I could adjust accordingly for today. First and foremost, how many of you are using what we refer to today as Lightroom Classic? So the Lightroom that's been around for a decade. Great. How many of you are using the new Lightroom, which used to be called Lightroom CC and is now just called Lightroom? Great. Anyone trying to use both? Okay, we'll have a chat about that in a minute. And how many of you just use Photoshop, you don't use Lightroom at all? Okay, good. And that's, you're probably here to figure out why would you need Lightroom at all. All right, so yesterday I started off same questions, asking primarily to see who was on which version of Lightroom. And for those that aren't on Lightroom at all, because there are two versions, to explain the differences between those two versions so you can make an educated decision if you do decide to use Lightroom, which one to use. So that's where I'm going to start, and then we're going to get into examples of when you would use one or the other, and why you'd use one or the other, and when you have to use one or the other, because there are situations that you will have to use one versus the other. All right, so with that said, this is my information up there. The main link you want on this screen is the video link, which is my YouTube channel at terrywhite.tv. So if you just go to that URL, that will redirect to my YouTube channel, where I have over 700 videos that are free to watch, and all kinds of Lightroom, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, everything we've ever done, mobile apps, and those will continue to be updated. Also, those are where my live streams will be. Okay, Lightroom Classic and Lightroom. So let's go back in time a little bit, even on the naming thing, and talk about that. So there was a program 10 plus years ago called Lightroom. Actually, the official name is Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. Makes it even more confusing, but Adobe Photoshop Lightroom. And then 2013, Creative Cloud came out. Adobe Photoshop Lightroom CC. No problem. And then 2 years ago, the team developed a brand new version of Lightroom for a variety of different reasons. Reason number one, people that had been using Lightroom or attempting to use Lightroom, the previous version, found in some cases it was just too difficult, too daunting, too many things, too many options, too many choices. I just want to manage my photos as simply as possible. Number two, I'm not good at organization, I'm not good at backup, I'm not good at file management, and if something happens to my hard drive, I'd be screwed. So those were the two main drivers behind the new Lightroom. So the new Lightroom came out, and they decided to call it Lightroom CC. Wait, Terry, you just said the other one was called Adobe Photoshop Lightroom CC. Why would they name the new one Lightroom CC? We will find that out someday in some history book as to why they did that. But then, so what does that mean for the one I'd been using for years? What is that one now called? That one became Lightroom Classic CC. Okay, fine, grumble, grumble. Lightroom Classic CC, Lightroom CC. Last year, because we haven't made perpetual products in years now, why do we need to call everything CC anymore? Because it is. All of our stuff's CC now. So they dropped the CC. So now it's just Lightroom and Lightroom Classic. That's not confusing at all. Okay, two products that do the same thing, but one does more, one's been around longer, one's easier, one does some things that the other one doesn't do. So let's get into that. Lightroom Classic versus Lightroom. So Lightroom Classic, there's the icon, the one you know and love if you've been using this for years, like I have. Same Lightroom you used for years. still gets new features and updates. So it's not like one replaces the other one and one's being discontinued and therefore it's not being updated anymore. None of that. Still gets updates, got updates yesterday. Got new features yesterday. So that's not the case. You can still sync to the cloud. Yes, the original Lightroom Classic had what we used to call Lightroom Mobile. So you could go get the Lightroom for your phone and use Lightroom Classic to put images in the cloud down to your phone. Okay, great. This is the #1 bullet on that side that you need to worry about. And I usually don't do bullet points, but this is an important bullet point. The biggest differentiator between the two is that in Classic, you are 100% responsible for managing your photos, meaning the storage of them, where they are on what hard drives and how you back them up and where you archive them to and all that. That's all on you. The program will help you see them and develop them and edit them and all that and know where they are. But if you put them on a hard drive and that hard drive crashes tomorrow, don't call Adobe, because there's nothing Adobe can do. And the person you call will probably say, do you have a backup? Because if the answer is no to that question, what do you want me to do? Because we don't do anything with your photos in Classic. That's all on you. All right. The new Lightroom, rounded corner Lightroom we'll call it today. Rounded corner or Cloud Lightroom or Lightroom Cloud, whatever you want to call it. That's the new one that came out 2 years ago. New and easier to use. It doesn't do as much, so therefore there isn't as much to be confused about. It does its primary goals, which is managing your photos, allowing you to edit your photos, allowing you to export your photos. That's what it does, and that's what it's really good at. You can import and edit your photos everywhere. Now the difference is, when I import my images in the Classic, they're on my hard drive, and Lightroom now sees them and can use them and manage them. But they're only on my hard drive unless I tell it to do something else. When I import those same images into Lightroom Rounded Corner, they're immediately synced up to the cloud the minute I have an internet connection. And so therefore, if I sign into Lightroom on my iPhone, my Android device, my iPad, a web browser, they are immediately available to me there as well. And they're not only just available to me, I can edit them, export them, share them, do whatever I want on any device, and those edits are reflected on every other device. Sounds amazing. No keywording. Now what are keywords? Keywords are those words you put into your metadata panel or your keyword panel so that you'll be able to search for it later. There are two people that fall into two camps. People that keyword and people that don't. I used to be a keyworder camp. I'm not anymore, haven't been for years. I do it only for stock, but that's it. Because what I found is the amount of time it was taking me to put in keywords, if I was just better organized, I would always be able to find my images faster than it would be the time it would take me to do all the keywording. Now, I'm not saying don't keyword, I'm just telling you I don't. A lot of people have legitimate, hardcore reasons why they must keyword, and they do it religiously, and they do it every day, and maybe they just like extra work. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe they just like work, and they do it. So great, if you like keywording, I'm not telling you don't. What does Lightroom Rounded Corner do? You can put in keywords, but you don't have to. Because the images are being synced to the cloud, therefore they're also being analyzed by Adobe Sensei for what's the context of the image is. So if I were to go into my Lightroom CC or my Lightroom Rounded Corner right now and type in waterfall, it would find all my waterfalls even though I've never keyworded a single waterfall because it knows what a waterfall is. If I were to say find blue cars, it would find blue cars because it knows what they are. So I don't have to keyword in the new one. Can I still? Sure. Because it doesn't know what blue Cadillac is. Because it doesn't know what a Cadillac is. So in that case, if I were looking or having to search for a Cadillac or a Toyota or whatever, those I would have to put in. But it knows what a car is. Here is the big bullet point for this side of the screen. You don't have to manage your storage. You don't have to manage or back up. You don't have to worry about it. Because the minute you import your images into the new Lightroom, as soon as you have an internet connection, it will tell you in the upper right corner when it's done, your images are synced. Yes, your full resolution, yes, your raw files, yes, anything you can import in is backed up. So in that same scenario, where your hard drive crashed the next day after you used Lightroom and they were all synced, no need to even call Adobe. Go get yourself a new hard drive, install Lightroom again, and then log in. And you'll magically see all your photos start to appear because they will start streaming down from the cloud. Done. So that's the difference, main differences between them. I get it. Okay. They're all available on plans and start at $9.99 a month, and depending, they have storage options and so forth and so on. Okay. I decided to create a visual representation of the two. Both get you in the game. Both play the game. Which one do you want? The one that's easy, simple, one button, or the one that has a little bit more controls? Does a little bit more. That will be up to you. But that is the big difference. All right, so now let's talk about the whole cloud thing, the syncing part, because I mentioned syncing on both of them. What does that mean? Well, in the Lightroom Classic that I've been using for years, hang on, both products talk to Lightroom Cloud. Classic only syncs smart previews. So what does that mean? It means that I pick which collections or albums to sync. And if there's 100 raw images in that collection, it converts those 100 raw images behind the scenes and uploads smart previews that are only 2,500 pixels on the longest edge. So it's not the full resolution, unless the full resolution was less than 2,500. But if it were a 40 megapixel file, you're only getting 2,500 pixels on the longest edge in that smart preview. So what are smart previews good for? Seeing on all your devices, sharing, small versions, especially for online or web or social media, making small prints, they're still big enough for small prints, and editing. And since they take up so little space, they allow me to work and do all my edits in Lightroom without being connected to all those hard drives I have at home or the big server I have at home. But that's what gets synced up. Now, what if I grab the Lightroom app on my phone, sign in, my phone has a 12 megapixel camera, and Lightroom on the phone has a camera app built in, and I shoot a RAW file. Well, that RAW file on the phone, because it has no choice, will sync up to the cloud. 12 megapixels, RAW, original, and down to Lightroom Classic. So Lightroom Classic will ultimately get that 12 megapixel file that you shot on your phone. So coming down, it's originals. Going up, it's smart previews. Lightroom starts off with 1 terabyte of storage for $9.99 a month. Because you are syncing originals, storage then becomes an issue here, because on Classic, you're buying the storage locally. You're buying your hard drives. But when you're using Lightroom Rounded Corner, you're therefore buying storage in the cloud, because that's where your originals live. So you start off with 1 terabyte and your originals sync up, and anything you shot on your mobile devices syncs down, or syncs up because it's all in the cloud anyway, and you're good to go. 2 other versions of Lightroom. Lightroom Web and Lightroom on iOS and Android. Lightroom Web is literally the web browser. Lightroom.adobe.com, sign in with your Adobe ID. Anything you've synced or anything you've got in either version is there. All your albums, all your collections, everything you've ever synced is there for you to edit and do anything you want to do with. iOS and Android, you can go to the respective app stores, App Store, Google Play Store, download the Lightroom apps for free, sign in with that same Adobe ID. You will see all the synced items that you've ever synced, and you'll be able to start adding new items that you shoot on those devices or import onto those devices. And you'll be able to edit and do everything, no matter which version of Lightroom you're using. So you kind of have the best of both worlds, and you have a great choice to choose from. The question I normally get sometimes from people is, well, can I use both? And the Lightroom team will tell you, no. You shouldn't use both. Notice I said shouldn't. I'm going to leave it there. The reason they say shouldn't is because their belief is you should pick one. Pick whichever one is best for you, but pick one. The reason that they don't want you to attempt to use both is because there are some disconnects. Remember I mentioned keywording? Well, both Lightroom Classic and New Lightroom use a slightly different structure in keywording. So if you keyword in one, they don't transfer over to the other one. That's one reason not to use both. Certain edits don't transform necessarily over to the other one. Certain things you might do don't transfer over to the other one. So they don't want you to ever be caught in that situation where you did something on one platform and it didn't appear on the other one. So they would just rather you pick one, whichever one works for you. All right, was that helpful to the people that didn't know Lightroom yet? Good. Yeah, quickly, yes.
If you're working in Classic and you have images that are synced up to the cloud and you want to transition, can you re-upload your images to the cloud and have them maintain the, will it replace the image in the cloud but still have the...
I've not done it yet. His question is, let's say I started out using Classic and I don't need all the stuff in Classic. I'm ready to transition over to the new one. Will all the stuff I did in Classic now upload the originals in the new one? And I'm not done it yet because in the new one, there is an import Lightroom Classic catalog. And I'm assuming that it would have to upload the originals at that point, but I've not done it. So I think the answer is yes, but don't quote me because I haven't tried it yet. Go ahead. Which version of Lightroom do I prefer? Who can guess? Got your answer. Question is, on the mobile app, does it take your entire library or just what I've synced? It depends. Which version of Lightroom you're using. If you're using Classic, no, it's only what you've synced. If you're using the rounded corner Lightroom, it's everything you've synced because everything is already synced. So in other words, if I import 500 photos into Classic, nothing is synced until I tell it to, collection by collection. If I import 500 photos into the rounded corner one, 500 photos are in the cloud and 500 photos are accessible on my phone. No, that would be a nightmare. Okay, so the question is, let's say I go download the phone app. This sounds interesting. I install it. I have 2,000 images on my camera roll. What happens to those? Nothing. It does not touch those until you tell it to. So you can tell it to import and choose all 2,000 if you want, or whichever ones you want, or you can set a setting in the mobile app that says, from now on, when I add something to the camera roll, automatically import it into the mobile app. Another question I normally get along those same lines is, once I import it into the mobile app, whether manually or automatically, can I then delete it from the camera roll? Yes. There's no reason to have both. Okay? So you can free up space if you want to do it that way. If I get the mobile app and I had 2,000 images in cloud, will it now bring down all 2,000 images to my phone and tie up all my space? No. It's smart. And you can even set a cache size for how much it keeps on the phone. So it works great. All right. Let's do more. So now that we got a good basis of what Lightroom is, now let's really get to the meat of this class is when would I use which one? No, I take that back. When would I use Lightroom or Photoshop? So now for those of you who, the one person that might be in a room that doesn't know what Photoshop is, what's Photoshop compared to Lightroom? Photoshop is the end-all, be-all image editor with virtually no limits on editing an image. Then what does Lightroom do? Lightroom, no matter which version, is about organization, and yes, it does have some editing capabilities. So they both can edit my photos, then why would I pick one or the other or over the other? Because while Lightroom can edit and do non-destructive edits, which is amazing, it can't do everything. There's no compositing, there's no layers, there's no type, there's no smart objects, there's no filters, there's none of that stuff in Lightroom. There is some ability to remove distractions from an image, but it depends on the distraction. If the distraction is complicated, then it'd be easier to do it in Photoshop. So there are times where people, depending on what you shoot and what you work with, there are times where people can just use Lightroom and never touch Photoshop. For example, if you're a landscape shooter, I can't think of too many times you would need to go to Photoshop. But if you're a portrait retoucher, if you're a compositor, I can't think of a time when you wouldn't go to Photoshop. It just depends on what you do. So now I'm going to get into those examples. Let's start with a I don't need to go to Photoshop example. Here I have a shot I shot in Iceland. This was sunset, and I got back to my room and I looked at this image and I said, what? Why does this look like this? Oh my God, it's horrible. This image is bad in every single way because it does not reflect what my eyes saw that night. I saw a gorgeous sunset, orange color in the sky, blue clouds, beautiful water, amazing. And my camera was set to RAW and gave me a RAW image with no adjustments. It did not accommodate what my eye was seeing. It said, this is what the sensor saw, this is what you're going to get. All right, so now let's go fix that. In Lightroom Classic, you have modules. So we're in the library module, which is all about managing. So you have folders on the left-hand side under your hard disk that are where your photos are physically stored. These are the places that my photos are on this hard drive. And I can have multiple hard drives. For example, here's the server that's at home. It's disconnected right now, so everything's kind of got question marks on it because it's not plugged in. But that's got like 200,000 images in it. Then we have collections, and collections are for organization. This is where you get to play. This is where you get to decide anything you want, which images you want from any shoot at any time of your life, how you want them organized together. If you have a child, boy, girl, whatever, and you photograph that child over 10 years, well, obviously you photographed the child with different devices, different cameras, smartphones, whatever. So you're going to have a variety of different files. And you're going to put together your favorites for that child's 16th birthday. Okay? Well, obviously, I'm going to have folders of all the different shoots over the years with maybe hundreds of images in each folder. But when it comes time to put together that 16th birthday presentation, I'm going to want to put together my best of those hundreds or thousands of photos. That's what collections are. Collections don't take up any extra space. How many of you ever listen to music? That was an exercise just to raise your hand. For those of you who didn't raise your hand, kudos to you for being lazy. All right, so, or tired. So with that said, you listen to music. let's say you use iTunes, whatever it is you use for music, but let's say it's iTunes. Well, in iTunes, you have a whole catalog of every song you've ever imported, thousands of songs. Do you listen to all 10,000 songs at once? Never. What do you make to listen to the ones you want to listen to? Playlists, where you can put the same song in as many playlists as you want. You can rearrange the order of those playlists. You can duplicate the song in a playlist. You can do whatever you want. Because you know whenever you're working in a playlist, it does not affect the original song. If you delete a song from a playlist because you're tired of listening to it, it's still in your library. It's just not in that playlist anymore. That's exactly what collections are. Now, the difference is, in Lightroom Classic, they're called collections. In Lightroom Rounded Corner, they're called albums. That's it. Serve the same purpose, just two different names. And I think they went with albums for the newer version because photo albums make more sense to people than collections. People don't ever think of the word photo collections, but you think of photo albums all the time. All right. Now that I know that I can organize the photos in any way, I can move them around in the order that I want them in. I can do whatever I want. In Classic, if I want to edit this photo, I would head over to the Develop module. In Lightroom Rounded Corner, I would just click Edit with the right photo selected. There we go, Edit. And I'm in the editing capabilities. If I go over to Develop, I've got the exact same sliders in both programs. So there isn't one thing that the other one does in terms of edits. They both do the exact same thing. Now I'm going to throw a wrench into this. In Photoshop's Camera Raw, it's the exact same sliders. So Camera Raw and Lightroom's Edit and Lightroom's Develop module are all the same exact thing. There isn't one thing that one does that the other one doesn't do. Why is that? Because that's the editing engine under Lightroom is technically Camera Raw. So whenever there's a Camera Raw update or a Lightroom update, all of them get updated. Because the images have to be able to be transferred with all the edits intact between all three of them. Okay, so now, doesn't matter which one I'm in, the same edits would apply. So since I use Classic, I'm going to stay in Classic. All right, what's the first thing I would do to this image? Inherently, with any image you shoot, you're going to have lens distortion because you're working with a round piece of glass. A round piece of glass is going to introduce some distortion, whether you see it with the naked eye or not. It's also, in some cases, depending on the size of the lens, going to introduce vignetting around this outside. That's darkening the image. So the first thing I tend to do, and I also do this upon import automatically, I set up an import preset for this, enable lens profile correction. What that simply does is it looks at the metadata behind this image and says, oh, he shot this with a Nikon, such and such body and such lens. I know what those two look like together. I'm going to correct this image based on that. This database is updated constantly with every new camera that comes out and every new lens that comes out for those cameras. So it doesn't matter what brand you're using. The only time this doesn't apply is if you make the transition to mirrorless. Because mirrorless cameras do this in the body. There's no reason for Lightroom to do it. But for all your DSLRs, smartphones, point and shoot, all your other cameras, this is built in. All right, so now that I've done that, the next thing I would do is give myself a good starting point. So Lightroom has profiles. If you shot in RAW, then you're going to have these RAW profiles. If you shot in JPEG, you're not going to have these RAW profiles. So if this will only apply to a RAW image. Why does this apply to a RAW image versus a JPEG? Because when you shoot a JPEG, your camera has already made the JPEG look better. RAW says everything's off limits, I'm not going to touch this image at all. So it's going to look like crap compared to what you were really looking at. And you might have even looked at the back of your camera when you snapped the shutter and it looked beautiful. What you saw was a temporary JPEG preview. But once you actually get to the raw file, all of those adjustments are gone. So all this is doing, this is Adobe's method of trying to put back that look and feel that you would have seen from the JPEG, if it had been a JPEG, non-destructively. Whereas the JPEG is actually burned into the file. So I would think landscape, because this is a landscape shot, and it makes a slight adjustment. The blues got a little bluer, but I tend to like my images a little bit more vivid, so I like vivid. And everything got a little bit more enhanced. So like I said, this is very subtle. You could get by without this, but I usually like to start with this. Next up, I'm a firm believer in my computer doing things for me. I love Adobe Sensei. I love anything that can happen automatically that saves me time. So at this point, to make this image look better, I start adjusting exposure, contrast, shadows, highlights, whites, blacks, dehaze, so forth and so on. But why do everything manually if the computer can get me most of the way there? Most of the way there is using the new auto tone. It's a big button that says auto, and auto is a bad word in photography because it typically means amateur. Oh, you shot on auto, did you? Those images look great. You're not a professional, because if you were a professional, you'd shoot in P. No, I'm just kidding. You shoot in manual so that you would go in and set all your settings up yourself. When did hard become professional? That's another story. Anyway, so I click auto because what's the worst case scenario? It's going to adjust some sliders that I don't agree with, and I'll just readjust them. But it's going to do most of the work for me. Click auto. Got me most of the way there. Now, will it make some slides or some adjustments that I don't agree with? Yeah. But I'd rather just fix those than start from scratch every single time. So in this case, what didn't I like? I think the exposure was brought down a little too much. So I'm going to bring it back up just a little. Okay? And the rest of it I'm kind of okay with. Maybe I'd bring up the contrast a little bit more. But everything else I'm happy with. Next up, what it does not do is it doesn't do anything in presence. And in presence, you've got three important sliders: texture, clarity, and dehaze. And for a photo like this, I definitely want to apply some dehaze. I haven't met a photo yet that couldn't be improved with dehaze, especially outside. So dehaze, too far, bring it up just a little to bring back in some of that atmosphere that was there. Now, we're getting there. There's two things I don't like about this photo. I'm still not happy with the sky. Three things. Still not happy with the sky. I'm still not happy with the foreground because there's some rocks in the water you should be able to see. And I'm not happy with the horizon being crooked. So let's go in and do a graduated filter for the sky. Now, you can set this to whatever you want to start with. I'm going to set it to exposure. And all that does is zero out everything else. And it's a very minor adjustment, so you're not even going to see it. Let's go ahead and pull this down. And again, you won't see it yet. But now I can go in and adjust that exposure to bring out a little bit more detail in those clouds. That's kind of what I was looking at that day. Next up, down here, I would love this to be just a little bit less shadowy. So I can use my adjustment brush. I can go to shadows. And I can just paint this area down here. And even though I started with shadows, that doesn't mean that's all you can ever use. I can adjust the shadows in this area to be a little brighter. And if that's not quite doing it, I can still go in and adjust exposure and just bring out a little bit more of that light down there. Last but not least, it's crooked. You can always rotate and turn this, and you get a nice grid to do it with to get it straight. I don't do it that way because there's a better tool in the crop called angle. When I click angle, I can actually drag this along the edge that should be straight. And it'll straighten it for me. Now at this point, I can nitpick and I can go further, But all my nitpicking would still continue to happen in Lightroom because I don't need Photoshop for anything I'm doing here. There's nothing I need to do to this photo that I can't do in Lightroom. So this is a case where Lightroom is all I need to make my photo look the way I want it to look. All right, so that was a scenario where Lightroom was all I needed. Now let's talk about a case where Lightroom's let's look at one more, hang on. Let's go into my collections again. Let's turn that one up. And let's go into this one. Should be another Iceland shot. Here it is. I'll reset this one. All right, crooked horizon, other things wrong with it, but what's really bugging me right off the bat is this thing sticking up out of the water. Distracting element. Yes, it was there. Yes, it's supposed to be there, but that doesn't mean it has to be in my photo. That's what you got to get over too. Well, that was there. And? Does it need to stay? We don't care if it was there or not. Take it out. All right, so anyway, how do I get rid of that? Well, that would be a piece of cake in Photoshop, but do I need to go to Photoshop for that? In this case, probably not, because it's something simple enough and there's enough background around it to where I can get by. So there's a tool in Lightroom Classic called the Spot Removal Tool. In Lightroom Rounded Corner, that tool, hang on, let me go back to the same collection. That was my develop demo. And let's go find that same shot. Down, in the middle, there it is. That tool is called the healing brush. Same tool. Why is one called the spot removal tool and one called the healing brush? Same exact tool. Because in the old days, with Classic, you use this tool to remove spots that were on your sensor, like dust that had accumulated and was putting it on every single image on the same spot. So you would select 100 images, click, and it would remove it from 100 images. And then a few years ago, the team decided to make it into a brush to where you can actually not just do a spot, you could actually brush it on things. And so when they brought out the new version of Lightroom, they didn't want to call it the spot removal tool because it's beyond that now, so they call it the healing brush. Unfortunately, this is not the same powerful healing brush that's in Photoshop, and you're about to see why. So let's switch over to it. Let's grab the healing brush. Now the difference is, if I were in Photoshop and I were to brush with the healing brush, it would use the surrounding pixels to pull into the image to make that go away. This does something a little different. Let's do it. Okay? I haven't let go yet. If this were Photoshop, I would just let go and it would just disappear. When I let go in Lightroom, it's kind of like going to Vegas. Spin the wheel. See where it lands. Because it tries to figure out what should go there, and it doesn't always guess right. I'm gonna let go. So lately on this one has been guessing right, but let's let go. Okay, I picked a spot right next to it. But it could have just as easily picked the sky. Like it just randomly picks stuff, and maybe it's getting smarter in its old age, but it's random. Now, the beauty of it is if it picked the wrong spot, let's say it did go up in the sky, you can pick this up and move it. You can move it to the spot where you want it to pick up from. So if it had done it from up here and did something bad like that, then I would just pick it up and move it to wherever it would look best. So you do have the option to fix it. Now, you notice I didn't do the poll because sometimes it's easier to use two different passes at it so that it can use two different spots to fix it with. So in this case, now I'll do the poll. And that time it used from the right. So, problem solved. Didn't need to go to Photoshop. So the theme I want you to take away from this class is, when does Terry or when should you go to Photoshop? only when you have to. I do everything in Lightroom until I can't. When there's something that just doesn't make sense to do in Lightroom, I go to Photoshop. That's it. That is the gist of the class, basically. When to use one or the other? When Lightroom can't do it. That's when you go to Photoshop. Or when Lightroom doesn't do it efficiently. That's when you go to Photoshop. Now let me give you some examples. So let's say, this one was actually a good example. Piece of paper laying on the ground back there. Okay. That should be child's play for the spot removal tool. Great. You can even move it around and get a better spot. Now, but let's look at the rest of the, oh wait, there's people back there. And you can crop them out, but then you're going to start encroaching on her arm. Oh, I know. I'll just remove those people. Piece of cake. Oh, wait. Oh, no. I have nowhere to go. So you might get it. It might work. But if this were Photoshop, patch tool, healing brush, clone stamp, whatever you want to make that perfectly go away. Now, she's kind of just under this tree in bad light. So what would I do to just put a little bit more light on her? Well, that's easy. I've got a radial filter that I can adjust and make it exposure. And it's like I brought an additional light after the fact to relight this photo. I can move it around, and the light goes wherever I want. Beautiful. Okay. We avoided a Photoshop issue, or a Photoshop trip. Not an issue. Let me find my picture of Tony. Tony, where are you? I had this problem yesterday. I couldn't find him. All right, I'm going to have to do a search, but I'll find it real quick. There's Tony. Okay. All right. And let's look at this one. I want to post this image to Instagram. Let's say I shot this for a fashion catalog. I need this image of their tuxedo on Instagram. Have you ever posted anything to Instagram? When you post a landscape image, no problem. If you can't see all of it, what do you tap? The little double arrow thing in the lower left corner? Boom, magic, you see it all. You ever do that with a portrait? What happens? What, say that louder?
It still crops it.
It still crops it. Because there's a legacy history bad thing with Instagram, that portraits are still a 4:5/8:10 aspect ratio. So if I were to crop this to try and get it ready up front, and I were to say, hey, let's just not be surprised, let's make it a 4:5/8:10. You want his head or his pants? Because you can't have both in Lightroom. I can either do this or I can do that. Now, at the end of the day, yeah, it is horrible. I was going to say it's not horrible, it is, because his hand's gone too. It's just not great. So you either use some kind of app to make it fill in around the edges, or you do something else, because you're done in Lightroom. That's it. There is no other choice. You can't add a layer, you can't add more pixels, you can't do it, you can't do anything else. You're done. So let me undo it. All right. This is a time where I need to go to Photoshop. How do I go to Photoshop from Lightroom with this exact image? Right-click, edit in Photoshop. Or Mac, Command-E, Windows, Control-E. What happens when you do that? If you're in a collection, which you should be, the magic is great. If it's a raw file, it automatically makes a copy and opens it up in Photoshop. If it's a JPEG, it asks you, do you want to open a copy or the original? So since this is a raw file, when I choose it, I don't get any dialog box, it just starts doing it. So I see my spinny wheel, in a few seconds, Photoshop should pop up, it's already open. Or not. Yep, there it is. All right. This was a case where Photoshop's going to save the day, because Photoshop has something that Lightroom doesn't. Content aware, layers, compositing, all kinds of things. So if I go to the same crop tool in Photoshop, and I switch to the same 4:5 aspect ratio, and I get the same problem, the difference is, in Photoshop, I've got a checkbox that Lightroom doesn't have. Give me a content-aware crop, so that now I can do this. It's a big file, sorry. Done. That will fit perfectly on Instagram. You'll see his entire suit. It's a 4:5 now. There's no need to expand it. There's no need to do anything to it. Save it. It's going to take a second to save because it is a big file. It's got a layer now. It created a layer called Layer 0. Close it, come back to Lightroom, and it puts it right next to the original. I still have the original untouched raw file as a backup that I can always go to, and now I have the new one that I can send to Instagram. So now I post it to Instagram, or before I post it, I share it to the company, and they're like, man, what's this poof coming out of here? Why is this button flipped up? Didn't you get rid of the label on his tie? Why is this little thing coming off the back of his pants? What's this all about? Why is there wrinkles? And when you start hearing all that, and if all you use is Lightroom, you're in trouble, because Lightroom can't fix any of that. That's why I said it depends on what you shoot. So now, I'm like, you're absolutely right, my bad. Command-E, because this is now a PSD and not a raw file, get the choice. Edit original or edit a copy. Edit the original, because I'm not done yet, obviously I wasn't finished. Go back to the original, open it in Photoshop. I don't need to crop it anymore, now I just need to fix it. So first thing I would do, and I can duplicate the layer just so we have a before and after. First thing I would do, filter. I would convert for smart filters, but just for the sake of time, liquify. Move tool. Smaller move tool, warp tool that is. Bigger warp tool. Smaller warp tool. All right, great. What's up with this button that's flying away? That button looks cool, this button doesn't. So we'll grab our patch tool. And use the better button. What the heck's going on here? You shot the label, really? You didn't see that? No, sir, I didn't. Clone stamp. Back to normal, there we go, clone stamp. And I'm not using my stylus, so it's going to be kind of messy, but I would never do this with a mouse. Oh my God, it's horrible. Okay, looks kind of bad, not blended in. Use the patch tool, kind of blend it in a little bit better. There we go. Oop, that's still not good. Great. All right, you get the idea? And what the heck? What's going on up here? A windy day? Save. Saving. Still saving. Done. Close. Back to Lightroom. So now I have the original, and I have the edited one that's ready to go on Instagram with all the issues that the client wanted taken care of that Lightroom would have never been able to do. Got it? Now, let me give you another example where Lightroom wins. Let's go here. These are all set up to make a panorama. I'm just going to grab a few of them. Let's just grab 4 of these. You can make a panorama in Lightroom. I'm sorry, you can make a panorama in Photoshop. You can even make a panorama using the same technique in Camera Raw in Photoshop. But if I'm already in Lightroom, what do I need to go to Photoshop for? Back to that same thing. If Lightroom can do it faster, easier, and usually non-destructive here, only go to Photoshop when I have to. So, right-click. Sorry, I'm like completely drawing a blank. Photo merge, panorama. And there's a new checkbox in the panorama in Lightroom called fill edges. Before, you would have cropped this or tried to use boundary warp, and maybe it would have worked, maybe not, depends on the image. But now some of that content-aware technology is finally starting to make its way into Lightroom. So if I just click fill edges, merge, nope. But it's not on mobile. So it's just on desktop at this point, because mobile still doesn't have panorama or HDR merge. So the question was, is it just in desktop? And no, rounded corner Lightroom has the same exact feature now, as of yesterday. So I get a brand new raw file that I can go and make all the same adjustments to that I want to make. And I can present and show this file. How many of you make prints? All right. This one is the one that usually blows people away when they ask me, why do I need Lightroom? Let's say, let's go to one of my travel ones. Let's go to Iceland. Let's say that I like this one. I like this one. I like one of me. I like the ice on the black sand beach. And I like this little ice sculpture that happened organically. If I wanted to print those 4 or 5 photos in Photoshop, what would I do? Open them one by one, or open all of them. Go to each tab and hit print, and go through all the settings 4 or 5 times. Correct? Because there is no other way. Notice in Classic, there is a print module in the upper right corner. Print. First of all, you have an unlimited number of templates you can make. So if I wanted to see my images up 4 up on an 8 by 10, if I want to see my images up 6 up, I don't have 6 images selected, but you get the idea. If I want to just do them one by one, I want a 5 by 7 for each one. I want a 4 by 6 for each one. Then I get a page for each image that I can now just hit print and it will make all 5 or 6 images for me. If I want to combine them together, I can combine them together any way I want and adjust them accordingly. I can go design any look that I want for my images. So let's say, first of all, let's do a wide, 4 up wide. Let's do that first. Okay. And now let's go in and say that I want, instead of 4 columns, I only want 3. And I want the spacing between them to be less. And I want the height of the columns or rows to be, cell height to be less. Get the idea? I can either print that out, or better yet, print to a printer if you have one, print to a JPEG file if you don't. And now I have a custom designed print of my images set up the way I want. And if they didn't all fit on one page, no problem. And let's go ahead and select one more so it fills it out nicely. Done. So Lightroom kicks Photoshop's butt when it comes to printing. There's no comparison. Yes? No, they're not. Those are not layers. This is just what the print module does in Classic. All right. So we got 16 minutes left. Great. Let's go in and look at this one, this example. This was the original photo. And I've retouched this photo a million times in classes in Photoshop, back when I used to show retouching all the time. When Lightroom got the ability to use the spot healing brush or spot healing tool as a brush, I thought, okay, we got the adjustment brush, we got the spot healing tool as a brush, we've got everything else Lightroom can do. Can I do a portrait retouch now in Lightroom? Do I have to go to Photoshop anymore? And the answer is yes to both. Yes, it can be done, but this gets back into the, is it worth your time? And of course, it will always depend on how much work you want to do in the portrait. So, first thing right off the bat, bugging me that I see one of the light boxes in the upper right corner. See a shadow of it, see a glimpse of it. That's got to go. Easiest way to get that to go is to crop it. So grab my crop tool, And I'm not even gonna crop, I'm just gonna rotate because that'll crop it for me. Done. Need to be a little straightened anyway. Second thing that's bugging me is the white balance in this photo is completely off. It's too yellowish. There's not enough skin tone showing. So grab the white balance eyedropper, look for something that should be around 18% gray. Oh, the microphone, that'll be perfect, great. Click, fixes the white balance. Way easier here. Next up, the yellow tape on the microphones drive me nuts. That's where the challenge comes in. Photoshop, piece of cake, patch tool, clone stamp, healing brush, lots of ways to do it, easy. Can I do this in Lightroom? Let's see. I do have that spot removal tool that now works like a brush. Let's see if it works. Gotta be careful. Got a little overzealous on the right-hand side there. Now when I let go, back in Vegas, just gonna pick a spot. Here we go. Oh yeah, the fingers, I don't need that. That's not gonna work. But I can move it. I can just about get it over far enough to where the tape is gone. Oops, back too far. Now, we get into some other attributes. There are dark spots under her eyes that are not her fault. She shouldn't be punished for it. It's just bad lighting. So we can't let her go out like that. Again, Photoshop, piece of cake, patch tool, dodge and burn, easy. I don't have any of that here. So I either have to use an adjustment brush or the spot removal tool. I can use an adjustment brush and just try and lighten those areas, or I can just use the healing brush and try and heal those areas. Either one, depends on which one is going to work best for you. So let's make the brush a little smaller. Just come in right in here. Below the makeup, because the makeup's intentional, but these areas are not fair. Whoa, what are you going over there for? Let's pull some hair into that area. That's natural. Okay, now you have two modes for the spot removal tool. You have clone and heal. Heal is best in this case because I want it to blend in. Clone would have actually been better for the tape because you want a duplicate of the top part of the microphone. So it just depends on what you want to do. Forehead, nice. Yeah, surprised you didn't go there. All right. Okay, not a problem. Now the eyes are a little dark, again, same bad lighting problem. So I showed you the one trick already with the radial filter, but let's try the adjustment brush. We haven't used that yet. So we're gonna set the adjustment brush to exposure. Gonna make it a little bit brighter. We're just gonna come in, paint right over the eye. Now, you never want to say you're done brightening someone's eyes when you're zoomed in, because you can't really tell until you zoom out. You will create some creepy people if you do it while you're zoomed in. They're going to be way too bright. They only need to be a little brighter, not too much. So let's zoom out. And then we can go from creepy to demon to back to creepy and then back down just a little bit. So just a little brighter. Not that bright, not that dark. There we go. Now, the only other thing I would start to want to do, so I would grab an adjustment brush and I would set the adjustment brush, in this case, the next one, I would set it for texture or sharpness. And I would start sharpening things like the jewelry, maybe the lips, maybe the eyes as well. I want the eyes a little bit sharper. Anything that I wanted, anything that was metallic that I wanted to stand out, so I could do that. And if we zoom in, if you Nope, 10 minutes left. If you want to start getting rid of blemishes, well, we do have the spot removal tool that will do that. Anything that's temporary, that's not really part of her identity, wherever that went, those things would be fair game to remove. So pimples, anything that wouldn't be there today. All right. Moles, beauty marks, those things we keep. Unless the client dictates something else. All right. Now, the beauty of doing this retouch here, it did take me twice as long as it would have taken me in Photoshop. But everything I did in Lightroom was completely non-destructive. Anything I wanted to go back and readjust or delete, I can. Your choice. Nope. I can go back to any edit, any slider, any adjustment, and change it. So if I did, let's say the eyes were now still too bright or not bright enough. Go back to what you use, which in this case was the, what did I use? The adjustment brush? And click on that adjustment. And then you have the slider to continue to adjust that adjustment. Sold? All right. Do I have the same ability to go back and do that stuff in what version? In the rounded corner version, yes. Cloud version, yes. Like I said, those three panels, Classic, rounded corner cloud version, or camera raw, nothing is different. It's the exact same thing. Everything I'm showing you in Classic, you would do it the exact same way in the other version. There's no difference. Say that again? Yeah. Anything I'm doing here can be done in the other version in terms of development. All right, yes? For mask? Good question. I love that question. Thank you for reminding me to show this. Her question was, which program is best for mass editing? I did 500 images that need the same thing. That would suck in Photoshop. It would be, because, well, in theory, you could open up the first image in Photoshop, build an action of what you did, and then grab the folder of all the other images and run that action on that folder. It would, yeah, you can do it, but this is, again, one of those, where is it easier? Way easier in Lightroom. Thanks for reminding me. So let me go in. I think I have a collection already here in Classic for this. Oh, please tell me I do. I just forgot what it's called. Hang on, selective edits demo. No, that's not it. It's one where I have a bunch of images that need the same adjustment. If not, I'll just pick a different image, different set of images. Okay, I can't find it, I'll pick a different set. All right, let's go to Atlanta. Okay, so 247 images from Atlanta, different scenes, different places. And let's say we start with just the ones from the airport. Let's say that all of these pictures of the planes in the sky, all how many ever that is, 34 images, need the same thing. So I selected the 34 images. I go over to the Develop module, and there is a button in Classic called Auto Sync. By default, it is on that. You will switch this and you will never change it again, I promise you. Because there is no reason in the world you'd ever want to do it manually. So go to your Classic if you're using Classic and flip this switch. And leave it on auto and never turn it off. Because now that it's on auto, If I go in and I say that I want to make all of these images black and white, they're all going to be black and white, the exact same edit. If I want to adjust the brightness, the exposure, the texture, the dehaze, 50 different things, they're all going to get those 50 different things, non-destructively. Now, unfortunately, Lightroom Cloud, rounded corner version, does not have auto sync, but it can be done. Let's say that, let's pick a different one. I don't think I have the Atlanta one synced. Let's go in and do, yeah, we can do it. No, I don't want to do it on those. That'll screw it up. Let's go do the Pano one. Oh man, I don't have that one either. Let's go do this one then. Perfect. Let's say I want to apply the same edit to these images of the castle. So I go into the first one, edit, make whatever change you want to make. So let's bring the exposure way down so we can see it. The difference is I get out of edit, get out of edit, copy it, select all the other photos, and paste. Can be done, it's just not as slick as the other one. Have to do it via copy and paste. You mean I don't want this one to be dark? For whatever reason? It's a slider. Now that one's not dark anymore. Same thing. Oh my God, I didn't want to make those dark. Those are going to screw up my demos from here on out. I don't know if I can do this as a group, but let's see. I can't probably. No, I can't. Let me see if this works. So I want to just go in and hit reset to original because all of that was non-destructive. And yeah, I am going to have to reset them one by one. That sucks. But in Classic, you could hit reset on all of them. Oh, did I do an undo? I probably did an undo. So let's say we did an adjustment once more, and we go in and we just brighten them super bright. Now they're all super bright. Oops, what was I thinking? Hit reset. Now they're all back to normal. So Lightroom rounded corner fails at that. I don't know if I can do a copy paste though. Let's see. So if I copy it, would that work? Okay, that works. Save the day.
Terry, what if you're in the new Lightroom and you want to bounce it into Photoshop?
Same thing. New Lightroom, want to bounce this image over to Photoshop. Right click, edit in Photoshop or Command E.
What's the edit one?
It actually does a little bit more. It not only brings the edited one back, but it stacks it with the original. Creates a stack, which the Classic doesn't do by default. Did you guys learn anything today? In the back, yes. Can I do the what that I did in Classic? There's no printing in the rounded corner one at all. There's no file print. There's no print of any kind. So if print is important to you, that might be a consideration as to which one to use. Because that would insinuate that it's not for professionals. Performance-wise, if I have thousands of photos, is one, and we're out of time, is one, so I'm not gonna answer, no, okay, is one faster than the other one? I haven't done my own testing, but I've not seen one be, like both of mine have 46,000 synced images and they seem to be just as fast either way. You had a question in the orange? No. I was nice. Say again? But you have no management whatsoever. If that folder's not local, then you can't see those images. You can't do anything with those images. You can't put them in collection, can't move them. I can list a million things you can't do in Bridge. So if you're happy with Bridge, I'm not saying don't be happy, but that wasn't your question.
You're on a network server.
And?
Bridge said those you can't put them into your Lightroom.
Sure I can. My images are on a server at home.
Multi-user environment.
Okay. You had a question? All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody.